2 years ago, Apple introduced the M1 chip, which is Apple's first Mac processor for the new era of Macs. But as times went by, they also introduced the M1 chip into the iPad Pro and iPad Air, filling up half of the iPad lineup powered by the M1 chip. So, why on earth is the iPad powered by the M1 chip? And is it quite unnecessary? So yes, it is quite unnecessary, but let's take it to the top. Why is the iPad powered by the M1 chip? Well, it comes with 3 reasons. One is being its production cost, software, and the other being marketing. Currently, Apple's chip supplier TSMC is mass producing more than 6 processors, including the A12, A13, A14, and A15 Bionic chip, the M1 series, the M2 chip, and etc., which I won't get into, is already quite enough for a smoother and cheaper production while maintaining performance for most products, even for a mid to high-end iPad. As currently, the M1 chip is already equivalent to the A14X Bionic chip, and despite it being quite older than the A15 or M2 chip, the M1 chip is already enough for most average tasks on a Mac and iPad, including drawing, video editing, and creating graphics. Hence, the M1 chip is called M1 instead of A14X. And if they were to start mass production of the A14X chip, which is literally a rebranded M1 chip, production will definitely be a disaster, especially when shortages exist. And because of that, price will increase by 20%, which already happened with the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. Since the M1 chip is already put to the iPad since last year, it could hint that they are going to eventually add major changes to iPadOS, which they already did with iPadOS 16, due to it having external display support and app window support, allowing it to almost fully take advantage of the M1 chip and market it better as a computer. But not so fast. It's still not a good replacement for computers yet, as it still does not have some key features like opening up even more files like .dmg files, or being able to get into an app file to transfer data due to the lack of functionality. And then most pro apps or games do not support iPadOS, like Blender, Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and most Steam games. And if they do, it just sucks in optimization or completely lacks of functionality. And heck, you can even restore someone's device from the iPad like the Mac and properly eject external drives too. So yes, it is quite unnecessary at this time due to the still lack of apps and some key features unless Apple implements them in future iPadOS updates and throws in their pro apps to the iPad, allowing developers to get convinced about it and bring their apps with full functionality and optimization to the iPad. And since Apple did a thing to iPadOS due to the M1 chip and they're specialized for it, marketing reasons happen. Since the M1 chip and its software is quite desktop level, though not as good as Macs, they also mostly advertise iPads as computers like the iPad Pro. But it did make a huge gap the 4th generation iPad Air can't fill due to its aging processor. And so, Apple had to fill in the gap with the 5th generation iPad Air with the M1 chip to prevent it from mostly being referred to as the poor version of the iPad Pro. Fortunately, it does not hurt M1 iPad Pro sales due to lacking of Pro features, including mini LED with 120Hz, Face ID, and a Thunderbolt port. And why not check out one of these videos above me on the new features of the M2 MacBook Air or what's new to iOS 16. This is Euri from Euri Tech. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.